Okay, welcome back to the SelfSeed podcast. And today I have Prince with me, Adelami, the global icon.
Yeah.
And welcome to the podcast.
It's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure that you accepted to come and share some things. I mean, probably I think your knowledge is important to the young person listening, to the other person listening. How do you feel to be here?
I think this is a very, very great opportunity. Like I mentioned to you earlier, I've seen some of your videos and I really appreciate the work you're doing. The rewards might not come now, but they are surely going to come, and there are people watching. I'm sure somebody here is watching. You can just take a look at some of the other videos on this channel and you're going to really, really be impacted.
Well, not all people just watch. There are many more who listen to the audios, because I feel like the podcast itself, like the audio version, they usually go far because they're available on the website, they are available on many platforms.
That's beautiful.
But video, not all people can get unless someone goes to YouTube or uses Spotify. So,
that's awesome.
But it's good. It's good to hear.
It's great to
hear
be
blessings.
Here.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, man.
All right. So, guys, Adelami, Prince, the global icon, he likes to talk much about leadership. He likes to talk about a lot of stuff concerning personal development,
That's right.
Lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And so I thought, why not? Why shouldn't we have a discussion about leadership? Especially, I talked about leadership in a previous episode where I talked about the book of Nehemiah and building walls and all that. And I was talking about, I was impressed particularly by the character of Nehemiah as a leader. And I saw, I think we did it in Bible study one time. and I saw how he was selfless. And I thought, we could talk about it. And so today we're going to talk about leadership, but from the perspective of the global icon.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you once again.
And I'm curious to know what really inspired, you to be go down this journey of leadership and all that. What was your initial inspiration? Any people, maybe things, circumstances you could give us also about your little journey and all that. Yeah.
Okay. Once again, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Sure.
And I would like to say to the person watching that if you take the things that are going to be said or discussed here today and you apply them to your life, I can guarantee to a certain extent that your life is going to take a positive turn. Like I said, my name is Adelami and I am the global icon. I am currently doing my master's degree here in China, and I am passionate about leadership.
Powerful.
Speaking about leadership, you'd see I consider myself to be a bridge between the old and the new. Now we have leaders that are very, very old. You have people who have taken seats in leadership in governance. Meanwhile, we have young people that largely are focused on entertainment and other things that, they aren't necessarily bad, but someone has to fill the leadership seats, right? So what I'm doing is I'm translating from the old system, then bringing to the new. So communicating that. So how did this start? You as you asked, this did not just start now. So right from when I was a kid, I've constantly now I'm a person of faith. I do not largely believe in coincidence. I understand that, there is a supreme being, there is God.
Right.
And then he has a purpose for our lives. So right from when I was a kid, I had been having dreams. So, seeing yourself standing in front of like a podium and then a lot of people.
Yeah.
But considering where I came from, you think immediately that might mean that, you'll be some sort of like a pastor or something.
Pastor, yeah.
I didn't exactly imagine it to mean that, you might be, leading people.
Leading people, yeah.
So right from that point, I knew that there was something special about me.
Right.
And there was also this unsettling feeling. But I didn't exactly pay attention to it until 2 years ago. I found that at that point in time, it was a very, very strategic point whereby it was a mix of both external and internal factors. So there was an unsettling feeling within me that, looking at the landscape, looking at how my generation is progressing, we're not having people rise to be leaders. So there needs to be people who will train the next generation of leaders.
Right.
We have people who have tread that path of being great leaders, but we need to have someone who will communicate those same leadership values to this generation in a language they understand.
Right.
So
Fresh perspectives.
That's why I'm here.
Fresh perspectives.
Right.
It's interesting because the way you say that when you are young, you have this you have these dreams, but then you do not, based on the environment, it's how your interpretation will come along.
Exactly.
Because the environment influences our interpretation of the dreams. And you just thought, oh, maybe I'll become a pastor and all that. But 2 years ago, this is when you're like, oh, I need to reshape the how do they say, to reshape the landscape,
or the
how
scope
it is
of my
seen.
dream.
And okay, I need to look at it from a fresh perspective.
True.
And you think that it is important to empower the next generation of, leaders, dreamers, and achievers.
True.
So you must probably had some sort of role models, I think, along the way, because for you to dream big, you kind of have to be inspired by big people who have dreamt big.
Yeah.
Right? And the environment probably is one of the things. There are people, there are mentors, there are teachers, there's probably a head prefect somewhere, like, because for me, I had people like, I just have people who, like, a guy came to minister in my school when I was in high school, and I was like, he's a good guy, he looks good, he's dressing like a gentleman, he speaks like a gentleman, he's a good leader, he's aspiring to become a great leader in my country. I like his character. I like to see. It's not like I had to take a mentor from somewhere. No, I had just to look at the guy. And so I would like to know who have been maybe your role models or mentors who, like, practically have influenced your journey until to this.
All right. So one quality of leaders is gratitude. Right. So and a number of people have influenced my leadership journey or my passion for leadership greatly. But the largest contributor, I would say, is a pastor called Sam Adeyemi. He's a Nigerian pastor, right?
Almost sounds like
Adelami Adeyemi. Oh, that's a good one there. So I started listening to him, and what caught me first wasn't even the leadership. What caught me was the excellence. The excellence. So what drew me to him was excellence. I was in search of excellence. I know that I dislike mediocrity.
Right.
I want to be excellent.
Right.
And largely, the way my life had gone, it was not showing that kind of. People might see it as excellent, but then,
on your perspective, you're like,
from my
I know
perspective,
excellence.
I know excellence. I know what it should look like.
Yeah.
And this is not it. I started to see it in Pastor Sam Adeyemi. And after a while, it was listening to him that began to ignite that steering within me. Like, okay, there's something that it's like that has been there all along, but you didn't pay attention to it. And another person I would say is Vusi Thembekwayo.
Oh yeah, Vusi.
Vusi is a mainstay, right?
Yeah.
Especially in this generation. This person is like a magnet. Is someone who has caused a lot of impact. Now you see, Vusi Thembekwayo helped me with wanting to be more articulate in how I speak or how I act as a leader. So one other person, I mentioned two more. I'll say there's a man called Leke Alder. Leke Alder is a brand consultant in Nigeria. He consults for governments across Africa and even beyond. This man, I discovered him late last year, and he has changed my life dramatically.
Right.
Because he helped me to understand that, to an extent, I've been thinking like a religious person. Now I'm a man of faith. I believe God. But there were some things that I was being religious about.
Right.
Understanding that, seeing God constantly as, oh, God is my father, is my defender. Then we go to the religious part and we begin to call him like, okay, the one who fights our battles, the one who always provides.
Right.
He helped me to see, even also in the quest of excellence, that you can take Jesus to your office space on Monday. You can take God to that board meeting on Friday. He wants to be a part of your life. He wants to be known as an intelligent person.
Right.
So he helped me to see that. And last but not least in any way, John Maxwell. He's basically an authority.
I was waiting for you to mention Joe Maxwell.
He's basically an authority in the leadership space. He has written more books than anyone else on the topic, as far as I know. And he doesn't just write on it. He doesn't just speak on it. He acts it. You can tell to a certain extent when somebody is faking something and when somebody lives this.
Lives the thing.
He lives it.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad to have people like that who have helped to shape my perspective and are continuously shaping my perspective on leadership. Sorry, last worthy mention is a lady called Temilade Salami. She goes by the moniker The Global Tammy online. And you know, when people are intentional about living their lives, it shows.
It shows, yeah.
I tried to scroll down to this lady's post on Instagram to find out when she started. And this person, even right before she got into university for a bachelor's degree, she had known what she wanted to do to a large extent.
Interesting.
It was as if her knowledge of God and her work with God helped to power every other aspect of her life. So she lived with a kind of clarity and focus. You know, this person knows what she wants. She's aiming directly at it, and she did not allow the noise in this world to get in her way. So those are things that have inspired me.
Interesting. I see from the characters that you mentioned as to they have inspired your life. One thing I've seen is like God has played a big part in these people, and as well, it's like discipline. They have portrayed discipline in whatever they do, whatever skill they do.
Absolutely.
And I like that particularly because let's say if you see you look at Vosi usually talks in many stages. Like he talks to many people.
True.
But he always doesn't shy away from speaking the principles of the kingdom and then being able to apply them in the sales, in the marketing, in the things that he do. And it shows just as to what extent we can go to like live, not just be seen as Christians who are just like lame. Some people think we are lame and all that, but being able to outlive that thing in everyday life, in everyday prospect. And one quick thought I had. In your perspective, do you think mentors are necessarily people that you know, associate with, are able to talk to directly? Or what's your understanding of mentors and all that?
That question is a very, very beautiful question. Thank you so much. Now, when we speak about mentors, now we have to also understand that on the receiving end, there is a mentee.
Right.
So, mentors... We would think that when someone is your mentor, you have to have a very, very close relationship with the person.
Right.
But we have seen cases where you might not even come in contact with a person,
correct,
but you are mentored by that person. How? A very, very good example is when you read someone's book. When you read a person's book, what you do is you get into the person's head. When you're writing, what you're doing is you're pouring what's in your head into paper.
Yeah, into a paper.
So when you read a person's book, what happens is that there are that person's personality is exposed within those lines. And when you do it enough, you find that this person, even if you did not have a physical contact with that person, you know how this person lives, you know how this person acts, you know the doctrines that this person, or the principles that this person lives by. Right. A very good example, since we're people of faith, is the man Kenneth Hagin. You must have heard of Kenneth Hagin, right? Kenneth Hagin did not necessarily go to Nigeria. He did not go to Nigeria physically.
Of course, yeah.
I think they mentioned that he only went to one African country in his lifetime. I think that was South Africa. Meanwhile, you find his impact in Nigeria continues even till this day. You see books, if you ask most people now, which is the book that I can read to get my Christian life started, they would, let's say 3 out of 5 times recommend Kenneth Hagin's book. Most of them never even met him in person. But their lives have been shaped by this man. So you find out that when it comes to mentorship, you first think that you have to be in close contact, but then let's not override the place of contact or physical contact. Because then you find that if you have physical contact with the person can prescribe solutions to direct problems.
Right.
So meanwhile, if you're just reading the book or listening to the tapes, they'll still prescribe the solutions, but then it's generalized. So that's it.
It's for the audience. It's for a bigger audience, not necessarily to you. It's not customized and all that. Yeah, that's good. And I would like to know what are the qualities, what are the definition of a true leadership? Because I mean, everybody, I learned in civics. So I studied, there was a lesson called civics in all school.
Yeah, we did that also.
In primary school, and then in secondary school, we studied, it was called general studies. In high school. And they all always somewhere at some point they said the qualities of a good leader. It should be integrity. I don't remember them mentioning integrity, but somehow they mentioned these qualities, right? And in your own words, in your own experience, what is really a true leadership? Like someone, we know the leadership of Jesus, we know the leadership of, let's say, Paul. We know the leadership of many people in the world. But what in your take? What's
all right? I've taken my definition of leadership now. I have taken another person's definition, like from different sources, to form mine.
Sure.
So,
but you have to say that I'll mention.
Of course, I would reference.
Yeah.
Yes. My definition of leadership, like I said, is not exactly mine. So permit me to read from here.
Sure.
Now it says, John Maxwell, like I mentioned, one of my biggest influences.
Your favorite.
He defines leadership in the simplest way possible. And this is someone that has over 50 years of experience, asking and fielding answers from different sources. And imagine with all those years, you'd think that he would have, let's say, 5 paragraphs of what leadership should be.
Right.
But with all those things, he arrived at one word to define leadership.
Right.
And that is influence. Leadership is influence. John Maxwell.
Leadership is influence.
He quotes. Now, let me read a quote for you. Let me read a quote. He says something. He who thinketh he leadeth and has no one following is only taking a walk.
You're just going for a stroll.
You're just going for a stroll. If you think you're leading and you have no one following, you're just taking a stroll. And this person, his name is James C. Georges. He says something. Remove for a moment the moral issues behind it, and there is only one definition.
Right.
Leadership is the ability to obtain followers.
They're all along the same line.
So how do you obtain followers? There has to be some sort of influence. And this erases the notion that some people have that they cannot or they are not leaders.
Right.
Even at the lowest level, you influence people.
Right.
I am an elder brother to 2 amazing girls behind me, right? And you find that after a while, after I started singing in church, it's all of a sudden one of them decided that, she just discovered her talent in singing and then decided to also join the choir, right?
Right.
You would find that there are people that, because of some things that you do, if you have siblings or if there are people that look up to you in some way, right? You find that because you are doing certain things in a particular form, they also pick up on that. Most people think they don't influence people, but they do.
Right.
For those who went to public or government schools, as we refer to it, you'd find now, very, very funny thing, right? We usually have uniforms, and I attended a boarding school. So we didn't go home until the holidays. Now there's a certain way we used to iron our clothes to make it like very, very smooth and sharp, to have creases on the edges and to look smart and sharp, right? So as a junior, we'll just iron it just to look just a normal straight way. But then we got to school one time and then we saw our seniors, they made like some sort of spider web using the iron behind their clothes, and it was until it was banned. That is because then we're just taking too much styles. But then after a while, I saw that as my seniors had this. The next time I went home for the holidays, guess who came to school the next time looking all decked up with spider gaiters and all?
Yeah.
Me. Why? Because in a way the seniors influenced me.
Right.
You see a senior wearing a particular brand of wristwatch at that point in time, and then the next time I want to ask my mother for a wristwatch, I'm asking for that same brand. Why? Influence.
I've been influenced.
But then when we begin to pay attention to it, remember I mentioned when I quoted James C. Georges, I said removing the moral, whether right or wrong, removing the moral part, because then there is good influence and then there's bad influence. They'll say, okay, Adolf Hitler, he was an influential person. Nelson Mandela was an influential person.
Right.
So Amy Maxempo was an influential person.
Right.
So these people had influence. They were able to influence, and then the thing that just differentiates certain levels is the scale.
Right.
So this person influenced until the person amassed a large number of followers. Meanwhile, right now, I'm just influencing a number of people within my space.
Right. Powerful. You know, Vusi once mentioned about when you mentioned the Hitler thing. I remembered. He mentioned that Hitler had a way of talking, and that's how that time he had a rhythmic tone.
Beautiful. It's beautiful how we have the same interest, because I saw that last week.
Yeah. So he said, like, Hitler, that is his way of influence by following a certain rhythm. Because if you remove the rhythm, then
it's just bland.
There's nothing in there. So I think the aspect that you're mentioning of a leader being able to influence is important. And actually, my next question was about to be how to differentiate, because apart from just leading, just calling people to lead and that giving direction, what's the difference? Because now you mentioned influence, which comes to it being an important factor of being a leader. Apart from just saying you should do that, you should do this, leadership goes beyond that, right? So I'm also curious to understand that these are a quality of a leader. Who is a true leader is the one who is able to influence someone. Like, you're able to take 5 people on a journey with you, right? They're able to walk with you to the end. And furthermore, you're able to influence their lifestyle. You're able to change the way that they think. You're able to probably influence the actions that they will take. But then, how do we go beyond direction? Just giving directions. Because today, people may follow some certain principles until they get the position that they want, and then it goes to that point of like, do that, do this, do that, and we don't leave the thing. So how do we, as leadership, go beyond directions, just giving direction?
Thank you for that question.
Yeah.
Now, there's a quote by the same esteemed person, John Maxwell. People do what people see.
Right. People do what people see.
People do what people see. Boil down to the way we would express it in day-to-day terms. Good leaders lead by example. Leaders generally lead by example.
Right.
Now, one mistake that Henry Ford made, as we read in the books and as we've heard, is he tried as much as possible to optimize factory workers in such a way that they were like just working like machines. Well, all you needed to do is to get out cars as fast as possible.
Right.
So just churn things out, just automated. At that point in time, you find that, workers were falling ill, but then it's like just replaceable. We put in another like person. So, but you need to do this, you need to do that. You find that with that, you just have what they refer to as a positional kind of leadership, whereby people do things because they are asked to. If people are doing things because they are asked to, the moment you tell them not to, or the moment you are no longer giving directions, you lose them. They are no longer doing it. That's why you find that with leaders that just sit in cubicles from morning till night and they have no form of interaction with their employees unless it's time to bark orders at them to do certain things. The moment they are off or they are out of the office, the leaders, the people working, they also take their bags and they go out. Why? Because they do things because they were asked to. Do this, do that. Do this way, do it that way. But if we move to the next form of leadership, people do things at this point because they want to.
They're interested.
They are now interested. And one thing that a leader that commands that kind of influence does is he leads by example.
Right.
So beyond giving directions, you have to lead by example.
Right.
People do what people see.
Correct.
Let me give you a quick story. I was the vice president of the Joint Campus Fellowship during my bachelor's, when I was doing my bachelor's degree.
Right.
And we needed people to clean the surroundings of the church. We had not been yielding any fruitful result because this is bachelor's. Everybody claims to be adults, right? You cannot just force them to do things anymore.
Yeah.
And they are not necessarily obligated to do it. But at this point, we really needed them to do it because why? We couldn't do everything ourselves.
Right.
So what we did is we called everybody And when we called them, the executives, I being the vice president, the president was also there on time. The executives got there, and we started cleaning when we got there. We didn't wait for everybody to come and let's now start cleaning. So we started cleaning, and the surprising thing was that as people began to arrive, what they did was they would either join me or any of the executives with what we were doing, try to assist, or they would come to you and ask, how can I help? What can I do? At this point in time, though we might still be giving directions, they didn't exactly start that because we gave them the directions. In their heart, as a result of seeing what we were doing, and understanding that at this point in time, that point, it moved from being a directional form of leadership, like just telling them to do something, to them wanting to do it, an exemplary form of leadership, like you might rightly said. So before we knew it, and it took way less time, because this time we were not having to, and we also were not just standing by and just idling about. We were involved in the work. Beyond giving directions as a leader, we have to be involved in the work, in the process. That makes a whole lot of difference.
Because when you put it like that, it's interesting, because when you look at today's organizations, some people start startups and they expect to become bosses in the beginning, and they do not want to, like, when you succeed, you do one sale and you are you want to be now the one giving all directions and all that. But I feel like you highlighted it in a very good manner, that you have to kind of interact, then show the example, then people will just eventually follow you because they're seeing what you're doing. It's like those movements when they were fighting for freedom and all that. The leader had to be on the forefront
of the protest. I saw a picture of him, like they carrying him, and it was that thing compels a lot of people to be a part of the movement, because they're like, if this highly, they look at leaders they place them on a pedestal. So if they see this person who seems to be high up there, if they see him come down to their level, they feel seen, they feel heard.
And I feel like that's the mistake that most organizations, even churches, I mean, not just government organizations, or just the leaders tend to dissociate themselves from the people whom they are, the teams that they are leading. And then they, like how you mentioned that they are just in their cubicles from morning to evening, unless you have to shout at them for something. But what if there was a way that the traditional the company culture was that leaders are part of the process. They are able to interact from time to time. I would love, as an example, I would love, because I usually don't see the importance of the leadership. Like, even when people sometimes call me like, oh, this guy is the what, I just say I'm just kind of a facilitator, because we all did it, we all do it. And so I feel like being part of the process, people get to learn, adapt some certain type of traits that will make our societies better.
I think sorry to cut in there. One thing that you mentioned, like as being the facilitator, but then you did something else there. We all did it. That's an important trait that leaders need to have. Gratitude. Not just to the people who are high up or the key stakeholders, but to those who were instrumental in the, in the making or the forming of the whole process. I heard something, your master was invited for a movie premiere. So he had been, involved in the making of the movie because it was a biblical movie. So they needed his input in, to ensure the accurate representation of the characters. And then they went for the movie premiere. Before everybody gets to watch it, the cast and the cast and the crew gets to watch it, and the key stakeholders get to watch the movie. So they went there, and after they had finished the movie, most things, once they are showing the cast at the end of the movie, he just stood up to leave. Then the person that invited just held him and told him not to, because at that point it was not a good thing. Why? While they showed the cast, that was nice. The moment nobody was clapping or doing anything, the moment they got to the crew, the applause was deafening. What happened was that the stars, so the so-called heroes that we see in the movies, stood up applauding, pointing to the crew members. Oh, Jay, you did this. Oh, the lighting was perfect. Oh, director of photography, you did an awesome job. what happened was that they recognized that the movie wouldn't have been a success if the actors were the ones setting the cameras and going back to go and shoot themselves.
Right.
It was a joint effort. So that made the whole experience feel more worthwhile. That small act must have made the crew feel so special. So you might just have been the one to hold the light, but the whole cast or the leader understands that without you holding the light, the shot might not have come out perfect.
Right.
So gratitude is also a very, very key component of leadership.
Gratitude. Being able to accept help, being able to also acknowledge the help. Yeah, that's very good. Now I'm curious to know, for us to be able to express gratitude, for us to be able to display all these characters, we must, as leaders, get a certain lesson. We must have learned something. And so this takes me to the curiosity of, what do you think about discipleship? You know, because last year, oh, this is 2025, right? In 2024, some months between May and August in August, I did an apprenticeship with a certain organization, with a certain social, how do they call them? Like,
non-governmental organization?
Not really. It's not a non-governmental organization, but it is a social enterprise.
Okay.
And so the apprenticeship, my essence was just to provide input, to do something that I love doing, let's say, because for that time social media marketing and all that. And at the end, I get to be an apprentice of the founder. You know, I get to learn things from her. Yeah. And that taught me a lesson of the importance of being students, in a never-ending learning process. And I'm thinking, what's your take on, what's your understanding of discipleship and its role in leadership? Because in as much as you want to be a good leader, you have to learn to be a servant. And to be a servant, meaning that discipleship
you must first be a follower.
Learn. So what's your...
Okay, so I'll preface this again by saying, most times in leadership, we don't usually hear the word discipleship. Right. So the more common one might be, let's say, mentee. Right. Like, mentor, mentee, right, or a follower. But now, I would put, to help with proper understanding, right, I'll put this in 3 categories. We have the fan, we have the follower, and then we have the disciple. Right. So fan, follower, and disciple. Let's imagine a pyramid. So you're watching this, imagine a pyramid. Yeah. Now you'd see that if we invert it, so meaning something like this, like a V. Yeah. Now at the fan level, you see that's the widest range. So at the fan level, you see a lot of people. Yeah. Going deeper, say towards this end here, at the follower level, you see less people. Yeah. At the disciple level,
even lesser.
Extremely. Most people don't even get to the disciple stage. Yeah. Now, defining, you find that a fan is someone that just likes you for who you are. They don't necessarily have to really know you. They don't even, most times it's just because of your works that they even like you. They've seen your work.
That guy is great.
That guy. Have you heard of this guy? Have you listened to this guy's music? I've listened to him. Nice. He's very, very good. So, have you heard about Vose Fembekwayo? They said he's a venture capitalist and invests in business. Yeah, he's not a bad guy. When you get to followers have more information. Right? They know more about the leader in question. Yeah. And they begin to, like the word implies, follow. Yeah. So you find that there are some people, they move from just being mere fans, they move to being people that know a lot more about the leader in question. So he's going to be at this event, he's going to be here. He teaches this way. You could even mimic him sometimes. He speaks like this, he does like this. Right. But the key parts and where we're going to is the discipleship stage. Right. Lesser people. Right. Now, at the discipleship stage, it takes an intentional act to follow someone. And you're not just following them for what they've done. You are following them for who they are, right, what they represent. And at this point, you begin to take their principles. There's a transformation that occurs in you as a result of you following. Right. So their guide, now, this necessarily might not mean that you meet with the person physically, as we've discussed before.
Right.
But at this point, as this place puts it, you're deeply committed to learning, internalizing, and practicing the teachings and values of a leader. So, now we are talking value stage.
This is deeper.
That's what basically defines the leader.
A person, yeah.
So you take all that, you internalize it. Meaning, to a certain extent, after you followed somebody for a while, like they said concerning the disciples at Antioch, where they called them Christians for the first time. Why did they do that? Because they've seen for a while that they've seen the original, and they've seen that these people they were acting very similar to this.
It's almost.
So what they call them Christians, why after the order of the person who is Christ. So a disciple internalizes. It's not just surface level anymore. It's a deeper stage.
Right.
So when you are a disciple, you devote yourself. And being a disciple, at that point in time, it's no longer always pleasant. Because you have to learn. You have to unlearn.
Right.
And you have to relearn. So you learn new things. There are certain things that you might have held in high esteem before. The moment you learn, you now learn a new thing that is better than that which you currently have. You unlearn the one that is already in your system.
Already there. Yeah.
And there are some things which you knew, but there have been certain updates to them. So what do? You relearn them.
Powerful.
So that's a disciple.
Yeah, powerful. A disciple moves beyond mimicking.
Yeah.
Moves to that point where fully you are almost becoming that character. You are living that character. You understand the values of that character, and you're fully committed to becoming a great character as that character. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Now, that was a lot of characters.
in one text.
Characters.
Yeah. So I'm beginning to think that as you go down this journey of leadership, as you are interested yourself, there are some challenges that you face. There are common challenges that we will all face along this journey. We want to be great and all that. You want to be a good leader, but some people will question your ways. Yeah. Some people will discourage you and all that. So what are some of the common challenges as a leader?
That's beautiful.
To you? Because for me, anyways, to you.
I would like for you to also share yours after I share mine too. But now, when I started this journey, I mentioned that things that stirred me were internal and external. So it was a mixture of the two. So they collaborated and helped me.
Yeah.
The challenges are also internal and external. Now let me quickly take you through three stages of how people view you when you start something new. They'll first tell you that you cannot do it.
Correct. Oh, that one.
Then the second stage, if you persist, the second stage, you can try, but it's very hard.
Bro, it's going to be difficult.
It's going to be difficult, man. You're going to encounter mountains. You're going to climb, move through 7 seas and 7 rivers.
Right.
Then when you finally begin to show fruits of persistence, of growth, they'll tell you, I always knew you could do it, man. You are the best. I knew him when he was a child. I knew he was going to make it.
You're interesting, bro. I've seen your life. I've seen your journey.
So that's just one. You'd always face people trying to put you down. Why? Because they can only see from the level that they are in. But what you're doing is you're starting on another level. You're going another path. And that path might not be the popular part. So because they do not understand that part, they criticize and they're like, okay, what are you doing? What you're doing has no impact. What you're doing, nobody's going to recognize
someone in your
you.
family do like that?
Exactly. But what at that point in time, what they are trying to do, like, is if you yield, they pull you down to their level. And the end of that journey is frustration. Because you know within you that you should not be here.
Right.
You know within you fully well that I should have gone further than I currently am, but I'm not doing anything. The good news there is it's not too late. It's never too late. You can always get back on the journey. But you have to understand that a lot of time has been lost. So The other thing is imposter syndrome. Now we've dealt with a bit of external factors. The internal one now is imposter syndrome. I had to deal with this when I arrived in China and was making content, right? Wanting to make leadership content,
right.
There's always that thought that who are you to make leadership content?
Yeah, I mean, there are people who know more than you.
So and most times you find out when you're watching other people's stuff, you're like, bruh, what are you doing? Just turn off the camera and go sleep or do something else.
Right.
But we have to understand that with imposter syndrome, now, I could be now to align myself with somebody that might be watching and might be thinking that, oh, this guy has got it all figured out. Most of us don't. But what do we, courage, as you mentioned earlier, courage does not necessarily exist devoid of fear, or the courage does not mean the absence of fear.
Right.
That I'm going at something does not mean I'm not afraid.
Right.
There's usually that voice still trying to pull me back and say, bro, you're not good enough. You can, this thing you're doing would not work out. Nobody will see it. Nobody will recognize you.
It's like when you're creating products, who would want your product? Like sometimes when I'm designing a cloth, I'm thinking, who would want to buy my product and leave Nike and leave Adidas? I'm like, well, bro, yes.
Exactly. Okay. So you have to constantly understand that it will be there. It will always be there. It's shocking to see people that we view as being high up there tell you about their struggles. And I think a lot of leaders should do more of that. Because what we see is, I was poor, but now I'm rich.
Right.
They skip the whole process. Now, as a leader, one thing that helps your followers relate with you more is when they are able to understand, or when they see your process. It adds to your credibility. You didn't just appear from nowhere. You didn't just drop from the sky. Let's take our apex leader, Jesus, for example. One would see when Jesus was speaking to, say, Peter at that point and recruiting disciples, when one would see that as, oh, this guy just is like he dropped from heaven.
He's perfect.
But nobody would go back to the times when he was in the temple speaking scriptures with the doctors of the law. There was a process. You also have to go through your own process. And nobody says you. Everything, frankly, is hard. Before coming here, I was thinking, nothing is easy. Everything is hard. What you have to do is you choose your own version of the hard. So I choose to do this at this point. It's hard, but I keep pushing through. I know that one day, and that one day is not so distant, things would happen. There would be a return. As long as I'm able to impact, as long as I'm able to help somebody get better, that's fine for me. Right. So, and one other thing, is resource illusion. Now, this one is very funny, right? At a point, like I mentioned, I started a YouTube channel. And upon starting the YouTube channel, I stopped because I was like, oh, I'm using my phone. I need a camcorder. I need a tripod. I got a tripod there. And I was like, I need a camcorder. I really need a camcorder. And then, one way or another, I got the camcorder. You wouldn't believe, I never recorded even one video on the camcorder. Never. Till today. I think even up to about 2 years or 3 years. I'm talking about, let's say, like 7 years ago. Up to about 2 years or 3 years ago, I still saw that camcorder just lying in the pouch. I didn't even use it to record any video. The resource illusion says that you're thinking that you'll be able to do what you want to do only when you have the resources.
Correct.
That never happens anywhere. I heard something somewhere. They said the only thing where they start from the ground, from the top to the bottom, is the grave. Every other thing you build from the bottom to the top. So those are some challenges that I faced. I believe some people may be facing right now, and I've been able to provide some sort of clarity on that.
Right.
So, but I would like to hear for yours. So, what are some of your challenges? Because sometimes I look at your content and I'm in awe, right? Because I understand that this is somebody that has kept showing up over time. What are some challenges that you faced?
Challenges that I faced. I feel like One of the thing is, this belief. In your words, you put it as to that imposter syndrome. The disbelief that you cannot do it. It usually haunts you. Like when you begin to compare your works and you're looking at other people, you're looking at the people who inspire you, and you're like, will I reach there? Really? And so that disbelief, I think, is one of the challenges that I've seen in my life, especially to the point where I am. The disbelief that sometimes I cannot really do the best like how they are doing. I will not reach there, or I will reach there, but I won late. I'll get there late, but yeah. And I think the other thing is that I see is the consistency, because a challenge is, if you want to be great, if it's the learning process, you have to constantly show up. If it is the work output, you have to constantly do it. You have to constantly show it, And so I have faced that the times that you're not consistent on the journey, that you don't really show up every day, this is where you're continuing to expand the time frame that you are supposed to succeed. You will succeed probably, but on a longer time compared to what you do.
That's true.
This I actually learned it from Jack Ma when he spoke about a certain aspect of how Alibaba had to place itself in the beginning, because he was talking about, if we are just to go to office at 8, at 9 and get off at 5, we don't have a chance against the American companies, because at Silicon Valley they were already in front. So what we have to do is, we have to go beyond their time, because we are behind. So to catch up, we have to increase. And I think it's the same to my actions, to my things, to my learning process. I feel like my time, it might seem to others that they have a lot of time, but to me, I'm feeling, when I was young, when I was growing up, I thought at 25, at 26, I will be somewhere. At 27, I'll be somewhere. At 30. But now I'm getting to those numbers and I'm like, wait a minute. I am somewhere, but I'm not that somewhere where I thought. And so I have to put in the work in a compact time. But also, I feel like the people won't understand you. You said for the principles of discipleship, for the principles, the values that you're learning about, how you have to act, you have to live, your life has to be transformed, because the leader that you're looking up to, the characters, the end result that you're looking to. And now when you redefine the values, not everybody will align with the values.
True.
And so you kind of have to shred some things along the way. The more you grow, I think someone said it's okay to lose, lose people along the way. We were talking actually with my friends, and we were saying it's okay to lose people, but you're not completely cutting off. And this, I was asking for advice from them, and they were like, it's okay. You don't have to be in an illusion that you have to walk with the friends that you were with in primary school to the end of your life. But doesn't mean that you have pride, that you don't see their value anymore. But it's just that I now understand the way that I will associate with Adelami and the way that I will associate with another colleague is they're on a different perspective. The way that Adelami will be thinking, I mean, I can live with that, but I won't let it influence me. The other way this person live, but because I believe that is because the values that you want. So guys, the podcast is brought to you by IMS Scholarships, by the way. You can just head on to imsscholarships.com and check. He's the guy who is making all of this possible today. So I'm curious to know, what are the key traits of a great leader now, because we have mentioned about Maxwell saying this, Pussy saying that, whom saying who, what, blah, 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 blah. But as we are about to go to the end of our podcast, I mean, we are trying to keep it light. For me, when I come back to listen to this podcast, I will understand. Even if I jump to the beginning, I will go to the end and see, what were the keys of a great leader, the key traits of a great leader. That I want to become great, Nelson Mandela level. I want to become Martin Luther King Jr. level. I want to become whoever, Joe Maxwell level. I want to become whose level. What should I follow? What are the key traits that they have? Because I remember when you mentioned the examples of the great people that you look up to. We mentioned some of the things that they have in common. But now, in your own words, what do you think are the key traits?
I'll give you 3 traits of a great leader.
Right.
Now, first, which I believe, so quoting
3.
Yeah, 3, right? What you said is,
I'll add up 2.
what like you mentioned.
Right.
Now, if there are some people that cannot go with you to certain levels, and the thing is, you also have to understand that it is for their own good ultimately.
Right.
I'm saying this because the point I'm saying has to like do with it, right?
Right.
Now, so if you are up there, you can help them better. So imagine the seeds that you have now, the time that you have now, which is your capital.
Right.
So instead of you to plant it in meaningful things in order to like reap better rewards, which would help you to help those your friends.
Right.
If you spend it on them now, you would find out that after a while you still be in the same capacity as them. You cannot help them.
Correct.
And the moment you find that you are of no value to them, they leave you.
Awful. Interesting.
Now, one of the first things, which is one that I currently have adapted to my life, I'm on that path right now, is devotion to personal growth.
Right.
You'd find out that the more committed you are, the more devoted you are to growing personally every day. At the end of each day, you see, the only guarantee that tomorrow will be better is if you do the work today. If you don't do the work, tomorrow will be the exact same as today. So it's one thing for you to be expecting things to be done for you. You can't do that. That's living in an illusion.
Right.
You have to get up and do the work. Devotion to personal growth. At the beginning of this year, I saw one of your videos talking about, resolutions for the year, and now that a lot of them end in February. By mid-February, a number of people have totally forgotten about their resolutions.
Yeah.
I set a system for myself to ensure that this does not happen to me. I put accountability partners in place.
Right.
Ensuring that my shoulds, I should do this, turn into I must do this. I break the barrier between me and reading a book.
Right.
So right now, if you go to my room, you find that on my desk there is a book.
A book, yeah.
And my jotter is right there. So the moment I get back home, I sit down. The first thing I put my other phone in the drawer, stock everything in the drawer to avoid distractions. I pick the book and I read. Devotion to personal growth. The second one I'm going to speak about is value others. Value others. Value others.
Right.
Value. If you value other people, all you're going to be thinking about is how they can be better. How you can ensure. I've started doing some things recently. If you tell me about something that you're going through, what I do is I ask, how can I help you?
Right.
In a world where everybody's looking for people to help them,
right.
When you flip the script and you ask, how can I? Try it, you find that some people wouldn't even believe that you're asking that question. Now, that does not mean that you can buy them the world. But the little things matter.
There's something that
how can I lighten your... just even make you feel a bit better.
Right.
Is it that you just want somebody to listen to you? There are some people, all they need is you don't even need to buy them anything. Just sit down, get a cup of coffee, get them a cup of coffee, and let them speak. And then when they're done, it feels now they have clarity. Now they're able to do what they want to do.
Right.
And they know that, okay, this person has really helped me. So value others. When you value others, what you're thinking about constantly is how to serve them.
To serve them, yeah.
How to help them to become better people. I see you. If I value you, I don't just see how you are right now. I also see what you could become.
Powerful.
Then I fit myself into that journey. If I can't find myself necessarily in the journey, I know that what you want to become is you want to become the greatest F1 driver. I go look for clips of Lewis Hamilton or other people that are F1 drivers, and I just help you with them. I look for books that can help you, and I give them to you. Value others. When you value them, you look for ways to serve them. And the last one I'm going to share is self-discipline. Oh God, I can't stress enough the importance of self-discipline. This is something I am personally learning. I'm ensuring that, my resolve this year is either I do it or I die.
It's either I do it or
It's either I do it or I die.
Yeah.
Because now, this is, to me, I've wasted a lot of time. When, like you said, when I see the years that I could have started this that I am currently doing, and know that I didn't do it then, it's like my timeline for getting to that destination has increased.
Yeah.
So, self-discipline. There are certain things you have to cut off. I like cakes, personally. And now, if I want to ensure that, normally what I'll do is I'll just buy a cake, then put it in my fridge. So, once I want it, I go there to eat it. Now I know that I want to stay off cake or I want to stay off ice cream for a while. So what I do is I don't just buy it. If I don't have it, or sometimes, okay, then let's say I know that the dorm is going to close around, let's say 11 p.m. I'm like, oh, guy, just get up and go get it. Then I sit down there and I'm like, okay, I'm not going. Just stay fixated.
Until it closes.
Yeah, until it closes. And so that's one thing that I do. So the first one I mentioned devotion to personal growth. I mentioned self-discipline. Then I mentioned value in others. So those are traits of leaders.
When you really take all of these three things into context, it's like it defines altogether the human, I think, the human aspect that we should strive for us to reach excellence. If you're personally devoted to your development, then it means you learn, you continuously learn new things, improve your knowledge, not just reading. I mean, learning is many ways.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but you'll continuously do this process of learning and relearning and unlearning. And altogether, you'll discover there are new aspects of your life that you overlooked.
That's right.
Or some you didn't discover yet, and now you begin to live them. And then when you now move from self-centered, now you move to others. Because I am trying to be good, but let me also help others.
Sure.
Lend a helping hand that, I want to be good, and I want you to be good at the same time. What you're struggling with, probably I'm learning it right now. And so I can help you. I can share my thoughts on it. And I like the way you gave example of Formula One driver. You can take this person go-kart, you can give them tutorials that you see.
Yeah.
Any script, any document that you read that is having a news about Formula One
drivers,
you
share with them.
You continuously give the values. I love the statement that you said. You have to redefine as to trying to really focus on yourself and just listen to people, what we call effective listening. Effectively listen and say, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? Because then you make more friends, and then you also enrich your life with, that I call it fulfillment, satisfaction. I helped someone. Oh, this person said thank you. This person acknowledged my presence in their lives. And the same way that you are feeling, the same way the other person feels. And it's like you're becoming greater and greater and greater. And also discipline. Discipline, because my man, if Denzel says, without discipline, you'll never start. But without consistency, you'll never finish. So the commitment that you are able to put, the commitment to your goals, the commitment to, let's say, valuing others, the commitment that you're constantly going to remind yourself, oh, I should do that, and all that, I think it's very important. But as well, you could invest as we say, personal commitment to personal growth. You also have to invest your time into things, invest your you have to invest your energy, you have to invest your resources. So it's like, I feel like investment also comes with that commitment. And so I'm thinking, was there a situation where you stepped into leadership, and what did you learn from it actually?
Okay, so to be quick with that, I'll share an experience. Now, I mentioned it before.
Yeah.
God has always constantly put me in positions where, okay, I have to just
they put you?
Yeah.
You didn't put yourself?
I didn't put myself. Sometimes I try to take the back seat, but then they're like, oh, this guy, take him and put him there. So, I think one of the ones that I've had to impact the most people was at the point where I was the vice president we're talking about all the Christian students during my bachelor's degree. So all the Christian students in the university. So I was like the vice president for the fellowship. And how that helped me is I took an appraisal of my experience during that time. And I found out that I didn't score myself well. I didn't score myself well. I got into that position, and like they would say, just wing it. I helped certain people, and so a number of them, during your time when you're in that position, I really benefited a lot from it. I was impacted, but I saw that there was no real devotion to personal growth from my end. And after a while, it's like it gets stale. That's like the thing.
Like a normal thing.
Yeah, if you don't grow as a leader, it's like they'll say a leader is a lead. If you don't grow as a leader, whenever your followers come, say this is the level. When they come, they are just able to. At that point in time, you stop being a leader. You begin to serve as an obstruction.
Yeah.
But if you constantly improve yourself while they come up, you can help them to get better.
Get better. Get better.
If you're going to show somebody the way, you have to know the way.
Correct.
So that's the thing I learned from that experience. The impact was there, but then the devotion to personal growth wasn't really there.
Right.
And I also learned relationship, they make or mar you. Some people say you're as good as, or you're as rich as the number of people you know, the quality of your relationships.
Right.
So now I was able to like relate with a lot of people. So as a result of say my personality, I'm quite sociable. I'm able to like relate with people, but maintaining and just meeting people is not enough. You have to service those relationships and ensure that they last.
Right.
So that's one thing. So, and being in that position gives you access to, say, influential people. So you're looking for sponsorships. You have to meet this person. You have to meet that person. A relationship has been created, but servicing those relationships is another thing entirely. I would say it takes more effort to service a relationship than to start it in the first place.
Of course.
So those are like some of the two major things that I learned during my time in that position.
Powerful. I like the way you just concluded that. Usually it when you think about it, all the relationships that you have, it's like pepper. Like putting them is just like putting water in a jar. But now maintaining the consistency as to how we nurture this relationship. Because if I want sponsorship, as you said, from someone, I have to provide value. And that aspect of me providing value, that process is the one that can be draining.
True.
That can be draining. And I like the way you mentioned, because on my end there was one aspect when I was a leader of this Boy Scouts, and these I think these were the times where in my leadership process I had to kind of put it into practice, because being a scout leader doesn't mean you sit in an office. It means you show. Yeah. You share the knowledge that you know.
Yeah.
And so if it is the pain, you have to show, this is done this way.
Yeah.
And so if I see you cannot do this, but yeah, working with the people that I was working with, it was like an enlightening process, because as a leader, I believe that even if you're a leader, there's someone who might know something better than you among the people who follow you, among the people who look up to you. And so being able to have open ears as well and understanding, okay, this can be done like this, but another person says the idea is like this. This way is easier. It doesn't mean if you're a leader, you know it all. That's what I believe. When you're a leader, you're just like a guiding light.
Good point.
And you provide the value the way people should go.
Yeah.
But there are people who can have a better perspective of something.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to know your vision of the future. As we go to the end of the podcast, what does your future look like? What impact do you see that you might do to others in the next few month might be so small, but in the next few years. Yeah, seeing yourself in the podium, maybe the podium that you are dreaming.
Yeah, that's one. That's one. But largely, like just to help give direction for my leadership journey, one of my visions is to be one of the top 5 leadership experts in Nigeria.
Powerful.
By the end of 2026, under the age of 30.
Powerful.
So if you're to list 5 leadership experts
by 2030,
by 2026, by the end of 2026.
You mean next year?
Yeah, by the end of next year. Yes. They would say something.
I need to write it.
Yeah, they'll say something. You should carry
a big.
Just carry it. Let it scare you. It scares me. But it helps
It
give
motivates
direction.
you, yeah. It also motivates you.
So if I achieve it, that's going to be like brilliant, awesome. If I go harder if I don't. But right now, what I am.
But you said this year is either you do it or
I
you
die. That's the thing. So it's for me right now. It's what they sometimes call blind optimism. Oh, I can do it. So I'm shutting every other thing. I will do it. But then I'm putting in the work. So that's just one. So that for me is to a large extent a bit titular. So it's just positional. But looking in the real scope of it, I wrote it down just to help me, and I'll just read it out.
Right.
Equipping youths with the knowledge needed to actively participate in policy making and governance. Policy making and governance. Most of the time I speak to, say, Christians, and then I'm like, okay, I understand that. Okay, we're Christians, we're children of God, but then that's the more reason why we need to get involved in these things.
I remember one time at church, you were like, you should not be scared of position. You should actually take the position, because if you don't, the people of the other side will, and they will influence the laws, the things that won't favor you.
Yeah. So it's either you influence or be influenced. So that's just one. So equipping youths with the necessary knowledge, now helping others become devoted to personal growth. So apart from being like just leadership as a field, productivity is also part of it, right? So to become productive, so we explore methods. So that's me. So helping them as best as I can. And the last thing is building servant leaders. Building servant leaders, not leaders that will stand on top of the pyramid and look at everybody with a condescending eye and just begin to enjoy like the privilege, but the leader that is willing to get off his high horse, calm down, wash the feet of others, and ensure that they become the best version of themselves. That's my vision.
We pray to God that you succeed in that.
Amen.
It reaches. It doesn't matter. It's big. It's what. Reach it.
Amen. I will
because
reach
it's
it.
either go big, go home, and it's either
I'm not
you
going
do
home
it,
now.
you die.
I die.
No, this year it is like go big or go home. But this year you chose violence. You said, "I do it."
I die.
Yeah,
I must do it.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. But before we go, this is like the last part. I know I did not even hint you about it, and we're going to have a rapid fire question and answer. And so it's like short answers, right? So you are ready, right?
Yeah.
As a way to conclude the podcast, because I believe the listener has enjoyed today's podcast, and probably, usually most people who listen to the podcast are like young people, and I think this person has got something out of the podcast. So, quick fire and answer. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, first question. One leader you'd love to meet?
John Maxwell.
People with their inspirational leaders. Next, leadership in one word.
Influence.
Wow, this guy looks like he was prepared. I didn't
know
tell him
about
the question and answers. This fire, rapid fire. You said one leader is John Maxwell.
John Maxwell.
Leadership in one lesson. Influence. The third question. What's harder? Leading, following?
Leading.
Really?
Yeah.
Not following?
Oh.
You sure?
Leadership is hard. It's hard work.
But also for following, I feel like it's also hard because you just being able to listen and obey and
imagine the burden that comes with knowing fully well that if you don't get it right, a generation will miss it.
Makes sense, right? Last question. Best leadership book or what? And this I can give you a privilege. Best leadership book and best leadership book.
Best leadership book. Now, I've not read a lot now, but my favorite leadership book, if anyone is going to get started on leadership, it's a perfect way to start. And that's Developing the Leader Within You, 2.0. Now, there's one that was written like the gap between the 1.0 and 2.0 is about 25 years. So imagine, it takes somebody who's intentional to, after 25 years,
I will write again.
Re-edit that book. And the edits in the second version were over 80%. Compared to the first edition, over 80%. That's huge. That means that something happened within that 25-year period.
Right.
So, developing the leader within you. And, I really did not expect this, but at the end of my notes, like my preparation for this, because I just wrote a quote. I just wrote a quote at the end. So, if you're going to be successful, focus on yourself. If you're going to be significant, focus on others, by John Maxwell.
Guys, if I say it wrong. If
you're going to be successful,
focus on yourself.
It's all good. That's fine. But if you're going to be significant, if you're going to leave a lasting impact, focus on others.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast.
I'm blessed to be here.
Thank you for listening to the podcast to this point. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
It was nice. It was nice exchanging with you and knowing that, getting to it's usually soothing when I get to hear people who we have kind of, the similar thoughts, similar train of thoughts and all that. And so it was interesting having you on the podcast.
You're an awesome person, I believe.
We are all trying. And I hope God can bless us and we can, reach where we want to reach. And furthermore, 2026, I'll check up on you.
Please do.
Your responsibility partner, accountability partner. I'll ask you, hey, how are we doing in Nigeria?
Yeah, how are we doing?
How are we doing?
Nigeria?
Yeah.
Ask.
But this is the point where you can also share how can people connect with you. They can also listen to your content as well as a goodbye to the dear listeners. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for listening. Like you said, I really hope you've learned a thing or two from here. I post content on Instagram at Adelami _. So just Adelami _. That should be the first or second result you're going to get. So Adelami _. Then for
so like you're saying, future it will be like the first.
Yeah, right now is the first. Well, yeah, we're going places. Watch out for these two faces. So then on YouTube, my channel is Adelami Gmo. Gmo there is JIMOH. So then for those who are listening from China, my WeChat channel is Adelami, the global icon. So my name is Adelami, I'm the global icon.
Yeah, you should do that exit that you always do as you're saying goodbye to the podcast. Because you are concluding the podcast.
Yeah.
So do that outro that you always do on your until how does he say it? Until next time.
Go. So this is the SelfSeed podcast. It's been an awesome time with you. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Adelami. I am the global icon. Bye.
Bye.